Hey everybody, in this video we are just going to jam out and go quickly through doing it yourself copyright registration in the United States. So if you're in the UK or elsewhere, this is United States copyright.gov registration, do it yourself. This is an ideal video for folks who are self-published authors or photographers or screenwriters or folks who need to do a simple registration. They don't have thousands of dollars to spend on an attorney or other team to do it for them. They've decided after reviewing what they know about the registration requirements in the US that they want to go ahead and do that. They want to take the extra step of actually filing that registration. And so here we go. There are two ways to file a copyright application to protect your work. You can do that electronically through the copyright.gov website or by filing the paper application. To get to the electronic filing portal, you just need to go to copyright.gov/registration. You'll see right there on the page there's a login to the electronic copyright office. They make it as simple and easy as possible, believe it or not. If you're intimidated by the idea of doing this yourself, you have to know that they don't want people to fail through this. They don't want people to have trouble, because the more trouble people have, the more trouble they have. So this portal is actually set up really well to help people get through it. If you're looking to do paper filing, you can find the forms for the basic registration at copyright.gov/forms. They'll bring up the forms so you can either fill them in right on your screen and then print them, or print them out and then fill them in by hand. Now, one of the things I recommend that you do before you go on to either paper or electronic registration is get the basic forms, because the basic forms have tons of information on there about the registration process. So they will define terms for you, and you'll see basically the information that you need to acquire before you actually go through the process. So even if you're planning on doing electronic registration, I do recommend that you sneak over and grab the form. And in fact, if you look down in the description of this video, I'll try to drop the link to this form. Right now it's January of 2019, so that'll be the link. And if for some reason in the future the link doesn't work, again, just go to copyright.gov/forms. So not everybody will qualify to file an electronic application, but I will say that the electronic application is much easier to do than the paper form, because one, you don't have to select a specific form. All right, you just go in and you tell them what kind of work you're registering, and then it populates the questions and answers, so you don't have to think about it. If you're going to do it by paper, you'll have to pick out again from a couple of the specific forms. So if you can file electronically, I recommend that you do that. It's also about $50 cheaper. You may file an electronic application if your work is a literary work, like a book. It could be an ebook or a paper, it's published in paper. Visual arts, sound recording, performing arts, motion picture work, audiovisual work, serials, group of serials, newspapers, newsletters. If your work is not one of these, you are going to have to complete a paper application. So before you begin either the paper or the electronic application, I just really recommend that you put together the info that you'll need so you don't get stuck in the middle of the application. It'll also make it more likely that you're going to finish that application, because you haven't gotten stuck somewhere and then you get distracted and then you don't get back to it. So one of the first things you're going to need is the title of your work. And you might laugh when I say this, you need to know the title of your work, but for some folks, they may not have a title. This may be an unpublished work. Maybe they haven't made the decision about what the title will be. So to get the copyright, you're going to have to put some sort of title up there. So that's something you're going to want to have in advance. You're going to need the year the work was completed, the date and nation of first publication if the work has been published. And again, you can seek copyright registration for work that is unpublished. The name of the author, unless the work was anonymous or under a pen name. And then if the work was made for hire or a similar statement. You'll also want the name and address of the claimant seeking the copyright registration. Now, the author or the producer of the work may be different than the claimants. If the claimant is not the author, and when I say the claimant is the person who is seeking the registration through copyright. And that doesn't have to actually even be the person who's filling out the form, because lots of people, like lawyers, have their staff, or they have other people who are doing this help for them. So the claimant, though, is ultimately the person who will own or be in possession of or will have the copyright rights to the work. So the name and the address of the person claiming the copyright in the work. If the claimant is not the author or is not the person who produced or the organization that produced the work, you need to be prepared to explain how it is that the claimant has the right to seek copyright. A description of the work, a statement regarding any pre-existing material contained in the work being submitted, and the name of the person certifying the facts in the registration. Now, before we move on, I just want to make sure it's clear that you understand in copyright, we talk about work, right? The work for this or the work for that. The work is the thing that you're seeking copyright registration for. It's the general term for the book or the poem or the song or the video or the whatever it is. That is the work specifically. A work for hire in the U.S., a work for hire is work subject to copyright that is created by an employee as part of their job. So that's something that's going to be noted in the copyright registration. And pre-existing work is any material in your work that you are seeking to get registered, which is already subject to copyright. For example, people will take Pride and Prejudice, for example, and then Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. This guy took the book Pride and Prejudice that was written by Jane Austen, and basically he took it word for word and just changed it a little bit throughout the story to add zombies to it, and made Elizabeth Bennet, some sort of ninja swordsman who she and her sisters killed zombies, right? So this wasn't a work. This whole idea, Pride and Prejudice, wasn't something this author came up with. He just used Pride and Prejudice as the base for another interesting book. Now, Pride and Prejudice is no longer subject to copyright, so he didn't have to necessarily note that there was pre-existing work in this, and if he had sought copyright for his new book. But again, that's just an example of how someone could take a previous or pre-existing work and use that to create their own work. Before you get started, you need to know whether or not you can afford the costs of registration. For some folks, a filing fee for registration might not be something even think about. It's just, oh, 35 bucks here, 85 bucks here. But for some folks who are just getting started, either making money online or just starting a business, they don't have $35 to spend here or there or everywhere. So to register online, for a single application, one author, same claimant, one work, very simple. The cheapest it's going to get is 35 bucks. After that, it's going to be 55 online. Registrations on paper, you can see the specific form. So the TX form is the standard form. That's going to be 85 bucks. And then, again, it's going to go up from there. So here are the steps to file a copyright application online. One, you're going to have to create your free account with the government portal, copyright.gov. 2, you're going to complete the application online through the wizard. 3, you're going to pay for your application. And 4, you're going to send a copy of the work you are registering, either a digital version or a hard copy, actually to the Copyright Office. Now, step 2 is completing the application. You can't pay until you've completed the application, and you can't send the work until you've paid for the application. So these are the steps that need to happen in this order, and if you don't do them in this order, you're not going to be able to complete your registration. So when you go to copyright.gov and you click on the button that says log into the copyright portal, and what I'm going to do here, I was thinking about creating a video that was a screen capture that just showed you how exactly to go through and make an application and submit it, but I just thought that it would take too long when you really don't need to sit there and watch me type in things. So I'm just going to do screen grabs of what things look like so it's familiar to you and you know what's coming and you can see really how easy it is. So when you get to the copyright.gov page, you'll be asked to create an account if you don't already have one. It's super easy. The information they are going to want is your name, address, phone, email. You'll be asked to create a username and password, a security question. They're not going to ask for credit cards, social security numbers, or anything else at that time. When you get in, this is what the panel is going to look like. So you'll see what it is that they have here on the left. So they have lots of links, and this may be overwhelming and think, oh, this looks really technical. But here on the left is just how you get around to do the things that you need to do. And here in the center, this will show any applications that you have started or finished or have been totally completed. So just so you know, open cases are cases that are in process with the Copyright Office. They're not cases that are open for you, it's a case that's open for them. A working case is a case that you have started but have not submitted for payment just yet. And just so you know, when cases are working, you can edit them, but when you have submitted them to the next stage to go to payment, you can't go back and edit them. So when they're ready for payment, you're done. That's it. In cart are cases that have been finished and have been submitted for payment, but you have not submitted them to Copyright Office. Closed is cases that are all done, and discarded are ones that you have started but not finished. So to start your application for basic registration, you're going to want to click on the button on the link that says register a work for the standard application, unless there is a different type of registration you want to seek. When you do so, the first screen that pops up, you'll see a list of a whole bunch of stuff here on the left that you're going to have to go through to finish your application, but it starts with asking you to select the kind of work. Once you have done that, it will bring you to an area where just sends you ahead to the title. Now if you want to jump ahead, in most cases it's not going to let you do that, because what pops up down here may depend upon what information you fill in up here, but it does keep track for you and just with a little checkbox of how you're doing. So the type of work being registered, you've done that, then you enter the title. You confirm whether it has been published, and if so, you fill in the information about it. You put in the author's name and then confirm what the author has contributed. You'll go to the section to add the claimants, and again, the claimant is someone who has the right to registration. It's not necessarily the author, although it can be. You'll put in the claimants, and then you'll have an opportunity here to include the information about how the claimant came to have the right to register for the copyright. And again, if you don't know necessarily what the transfer statement should be, the Copyright Office has included that information, just super helpfully. So if you get in there and you feel like you're worried you might get stuck, they're going to have that information in there for you. Next, you'll be looking at any sort of limitations of claims. For example, if there's pre-existing material in your work. You'll put in information for anyone else to have the right to correspond or get information from regarding the copyright. So if somebody wanted to use a part of your song or your beat or your speech or whatever else, then this is the information they would contact. The certificate of registration, where it should go to, special handling, and then certify that the facts are true. Now once you are done, you have an opportunity to review the submissions, and this is an area where you want to be really careful that you have everything right, because once you select add to cart over here, it will close the application process and give you the ability to pay, but you can't go back. So if you realize later that there's a mistake but you haven't completed the registration process, you're going to have to just start over. Once payment is confirmed, you'll have to send a copy of your work to complete the submission, and the copyright.gov site basically leads you all the way through it. So you just click continue after you've paid. It'll bring you to a page that explains to you all the ways that you can send in your work to complete the registration process, because again, the registration is not complete until you have done all of the steps, including submitting the work. So you can completely upload everything electronically if it qualifies, and they show you just straight how to do it. Once you're doing the electronic one, you click the green button and that finishes it. If not, you can click the button that will show how you can ship it. It will have you create the shipping label until you where to mail it. And if all else fails, they have phone numbers that you can call to say, please help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I really want to do this right. And finally, before I go, you should know that there are tutorials. So they have videos that just go step by step through what I've talked to you about here that are free to do. You can see it's at copyright.gov/eco/tutorials, and they basically have all this information. So don't pay anybody for it. You could do it. It was super fun. If you got any value out of this, please give me the thumbs up, a like, leave me a comment. It was awesome. All right, take care.